wicked in perpetuity. So that's when he puts his foot down. That's what has to happen. That sounds like the right thing to do to me. I can't think of a better approach, a better method to fix this thing. The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth can indeed be a big fat finger down the throat of those whom are perishing, because the lies they are living, and because of the lies they are living and refuse to forego. That's right. They love their lives in this world. That's the caution Jesus tells over. Don't get too comfortable. Don't be a Laodicean. Just because you're well-heeled financially, you're successful as defined by the world, and you're prosperous as defined by the world, you've reached fame and fortune, don't get too comfortable with that, okay? Because your conscience will kick in. And when it does, you're going to say, wow, this was vapid and empty. And I wasn't living for the eternal, the real prize. The real prize is eternal life in paradise. I was living for the temporal things. I got too comfortable with those, and I forgot my brothers and sisters who are living in such great distress all over the world. Created, manufactured, invented distress. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Just the thought of knowing the truth. Oh, wait, I just read that. I don't like contending within the bounds of a decidedly satanically based beast system. And damn it, nor do I want to. So that's a decision that we all have to make, but we all still are stuck between a rock and a hard spot. We have to deal with it to some degree, right, in order to survive. So God knows it. He knows that, we go out, we make money, and we pay our bills, and it's for our very survival. But we have to remember that is the understanding with God. That's a relationship, that this is temporal. And we're not going to have to do this forever, okay? Because this is imposed on us. The reality would be, if God had his way, when God has his way, is that we are born free from the money masters of misery. That no man has a right to impose on you this tax we euphemistically call it's so innocuous, so innocent, a cost of living. No, it isn't. It's the most pernicious tax of all. It's right in your face. It's a hidden tax. It's a deceitful tax on your very survival, your very existence. Evil. The reason so many people choose willful ignorance is because they consciously or unconsciously believe that their real or perceived self-interests are threatened by a given particular truth. That's it, man. Their minds, they come to like a halt. Their mind becomes paralyzed when they consider. So they rationalize. They justify their thought system because they say, you know what? If I don't do that, my survival's at stake. Okay? So in order to keep on chugging, to go with the flow, they do this rationalizing. And so their hearts are far from God. These are the people so often, they serve God with their lips, but their hearts are far from him. So, you've got to say, you got to put your own self-interest in the back seat and really just strive to be all that you could be. Do all that you could do for the good cause, for the right causes. Fighting the good fight and exposing the evildoers, and contend just as much as you need to with this system. But don't get too comfortable with it, because it's perishing, and all those proponents of this system are perishing along with it. The highest standard of living invariably is also the highest level of freedom through lack of burden. That's it. So the lower your cost of existence, your tax on your existence, the more free you can be, because the lower your burden will be. It's a burden to pay a high cost of living. And conversely, it's a lack of burden. It's the way to freedom to have a low cost of living. High-ranking, acutely devout establishmentarians have convinced a huge swath of the population that they are anti-establishmentarian through deceptive talking points referencing the need for change, right? There's a change. They bandy that term about. We need change, right? So they appeal to all those. Yes, we need the establishment thrown. So the devout establishmentarians, through this gaslighting psychological warfare, are posing as anti-establishmentarian. You see how these people roll? See how they operate? They sicken me to the depths, to the core of my being. I want to vomit. The more one has, the less they have to gain, and the more they have to lose. Conversely, the less one has to lose, and the more they have to gain. That's a positive way to look at poverty. Whether we realize it or not, we are all brave by necessity, since no one knows when their last breath will be. I'm telling you, we're all blessed by God, just being able to cope. And He's there to bless us and to comfort us, to reassure us, to encourage us, if we tap into it. One can run from immutable laws, but one will never escape reality as defined and decided from above. And those immutable laws are things that God decides. It's His will that's always going to be accomplished on earth, not ours. Our inextricable human interconnectivity, our osmotic, inescapable marriage to our fellow human beings, is something we should run to, not away from. But so often we do the opposite. Ignorance is bliss philosophy, right? The ways of the world. Be honest. The message from society, from our so-called Western culture, is that if a man is poor, as defined secularly speaking, then he should not seek a wife. Isn't that the truth? If you don't have enough money, then you shouldn't have a wife, because you might have children. If you can't afford the children, well, you shouldn't have them, right? So you should just be single if you're poor, if you don't fit into the system and comply sufficiently as defined by the secular world. Is it or is it not okay to be born with a silver spoon in one's mouth? Well, let me ask you, is it? How do you feel about that? So if it's okay, if you decide it's okay, then by extension it can be applied to everyone, or it must be reserved for an exclusive select, privileged class. And I ask that you explain your thinking, explain your logic. I like to give people food for thought, inspire, provoke thought in people. And one of them is that idea. That is it or is it not okay if every human being on earth is born with a silver spoon in their mouth? If so, how would that change our basic paradigm, our basic reality? Trump should steal the evil-doing establishmentarian losers' thunders by letting all the good immigrants stay, the good ones I say, and explain his actions to his opponents. Then crack down and implement a new, surefire check on illegal immigration and route it out immediately. Then explain your actions to your opponents. And the best way to do that is take away the incentives. It's that simple. No, if you can't, produce the necessary documents, then we're not good. You don't get any welfare. Okay, it's as simple as that. And employers should be cracked down on too. We got rules for a reason, to protect rights and justice. Is the notion that an entirely voluntary tax system would be vastly more successful than a mandatory system a liberal idea or a conservative idea? You see, if we could only come together as liberals and conservatives and say, wait a minute, that's true. If that's true, if that's a way to get our nation in the black, to make the tax system entirely voluntary, why the hell don't we do it? That's a great question, because then problems would actually get fixed. You understand? And that's what the grand puppeteers do not want. That's antithetical to what they want. They need problems. They need chaos. They need crises. They need poverty. They need the growing wealth disparity. They need the disruptive technologies to stay in place, or to not be implemented, rather. Okay? You don't want to disrupt the oil companies, for example.